Oh, hey, there you are. Good to see you again. And another week's gone by. And this week the reading is on citizen journalism, which is a fascinating topic that is very much involved with the rise of blogging and the idea that everyone can be a journalist. And in a lot of ways, blogging has created a great challenge to journalism, to the idea of professional journalism, by allowing amateurs to engage in a similar kind of activity. And Harold Innis, the media ecology scholar, who was actually Canada's leading economist in the mid-20th century and turned lately, in the late part of his career, towards the study of media, used the economic term monopoly and talked about how at certain points in history certain groups gained a monopoly of knowledge. And then new forms of communication would come along to break that monopoly of knowledge. An example of this would be the church during the Middle Ages had a monopoly of knowledge in that, certainly in Europe, that was where most of the learning was located, where most of the literate people were centered in the church and in the universities sponsored by the church. And that's where most of the book production was centered. And when the printing press came along, it broke that monopoly of knowledge. In fact, the Protestant Reformation is closely connected with print technology, where the idea was that now that everyone could have their own Bible, Martin Luther's kind of slogan was "Every man his own Bible, every man his own priest." No need to have an intermediary act as a go-between between individuals and God. So that is a pattern that exists throughout history, where a new medium breaks the monopoly of knowledge held by an older group of people when access to resources, to communication resources, are scarce, or the method of communication is very complex. And we see this happening a lot today with the internet. For example, when you think of WebMD and other sources on the internet providing knowledge about medicine, not to mention the fact that people can, I guess, somewhat illegally order prescription drugs through the internet, particularly from abroad. But the point is that the kind of monopoly that's held by the medical professionals has been loosened to some extent. Well, the same thing's true with journalism. And that has its good points, in creating a more democratic culture, a more participatory culture where other people who are not, don't necessarily have the resources to create their own news medium, their own newspaper, certainly not their own radio or TV station, but people do have a chance to take part now in the activity that we call journalism, in the creation and reporting of news and in the expressing opinion in this way. So it does have that democratizing advantage. The disadvantage, of course, is the loss of a kind of professional orientation as we go to a amateur. Amateur is not necessarily a bad thing. It means for the love of it. But some have criticized the cult of the amateur and the kind of amateurish efforts that we'd get. For good or for ill, journalism now, that idea has been broadened, and for a long time before blogging, people were calling for more in the way of citizen journalism, more participation on the part of the citizenry in journalism, which is very much tied, so closely tied to the idea of democracy that it is made part of the First Amendment to the Constitution. And we call it the Fourth Estate because it's there as part of really, part of the way that a society runs itself and governs itself. It's the check, the watchdog on government and on people in power. In any event, not everything that goes under the heading of blogging may be considered journalism, but you might think to yourself, ask yourself, to what extent are you reporting on events that are happening? To what extent are you expressing opinions on issues of concern? And in that sense, you may well be a reporter. And blogs do get a certain amount of respect, not just in the political arena where you get a lot of opinion being expressed, but also in areas like entertainment. People who have very successful blogs, say on movies with a lot of readership, movie companies, movie distributors may reach out to them and look for their approval. So again, very interesting kind of development. One thing that comes out of citizen journalism, the idea, the theory, if you like, of citizen journalism, and I think it's a very important point for you to keep in mind, is to say, all right, the whole point here is to create a public. Publics don't just happen, they don't just exist out there waiting for somebody to come by. Publics are created. Publics are groups of readers. They're a readership. So we create a public and create involved citizens through this kind of participation. And a thing to really look at is a way I've heard it put, and I think it's a wonderful thing to think about, is find a community that you want to serve and think about how you can serve them through your blogging efforts. Don't think of it as something that you're just doing it for yourself, but think of it as a form of service. That is, in a way, journalism as a higher calling is a form of service to the community at large, whether it's to the small community or the large community. It's a form of service to the democratic community. Think of what your community is and how you're going to serve it through your blogging. By being a representative of that community, by being a servant of that community, you appeal and attract that community. So I think it's a very good way to think about what you're doing. So take a look at that reading. I think you'll find it very interesting. Apart from that, the assignment for this week is to create a blog post that involves a picture. Now, many of you have already included images in your blog posts, and that's great. Some of you have heard me say in my comments to you that you should always begin your post with writing, not with the image, and always end your post with writing and not with an image. This is, after all, a course on writing, so that's how I'd like you to approach it. And in this particular post on a picture, it's not just to include a picture. That's one thing, to just make sure that everyone here in at least one post has included an image in that post, and so you know how to do that, but also that this post should discuss the image, right? So that does mean introducing the image, discussing it, have something to say. The image should be one or more images should be the focal point of that post. So discuss it, introduce it, discuss it, conclude, make a transition from one image to another if you're using more than one, but that should be what it's about. Also, just to let you know, remember that you have the assignment for this semester to add an entry under useful applications in our website and to add another entry under exemplary blogs. I have put the first entries in for each of those pages. They're up now, so you can read them and take a look at what I have there. So you need to do one entry, and don't wait till the last minute. Do it as soon as you can on each of those pages. And once you've done it, put an announcement about it on our discussion board, on whatever the most current discussion board is, just so everyone will know to go and take a look at it. Okay. Other than that, by now you should have your URL on the home page of the site. You should have your picture and profile and other information on the team page of the site. If you've got those, then you should have your document set up that we're sharing, you and I are sharing individually, and you should be entering each and every blog post on that document for me to leave comments on and for you to respond to however you like. So get to work, get things done, be sure to keep up, because it's the semester is pretty much halfway done at this point. And I'll see you online again. Till next time, so long.